Alrighty. So this will with people one more time. Okay. News. Never look straight forward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Everything they tell you, judges, attorneys, cops, is all hearsay. Do your own research. All right. Research, research, research. All right. So there's going to be a couple more extensions to this because I think it's very important for me and for y'all. Uh, I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. Okay. Um, Anyway, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. Okay, anything I say or do is just opinion, just opinions, just opinions. All right, I'm standing arm length from this because, well, he's more knowledgeable than I am, and I not even in his realm of expertise, y'all. Okay, but let's go.
Handlers with their Roman cult Sestake Trust and their fraudulent military so-called courts with their Roman law in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 247, damage to religious property, obstruction of persons, and free exercise of religious beliefs. And they're busy forcing their vaccinations and their satanic fear agenda when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob tells us to fear not. And there are...
Now, remember a long time ago, some of you older ones, right? Nancy Pelosi says, we cannot, what did she say? Well, number one, never let a good crisis go to waste. I put the good part in there. I know what she meant. And, she says, well, we can't read the bill until we pass it. She did that on public TV, y'all. They're supposed to read the bill before passing it and make sure it goes through the constitutional status. But she plain out says that we got to pass it before we can read the bill. We'll read the bill after we pass it. Well, no, you got to go through the process and make sure it's constitutional.
They will reap the reward of all liars. Janet Yellen and her intelligence bulletin attached to the original war crimes complaint claims that the demandant is naturalized, as required by Janet Yellen and her screen for low intelligence thugs. But it's impossible for the demandant to be one of their U.S. citizen corporate slaves because the demandant is one of the posterity found in the preamble to the Constitution for the United States of America. And they're required to know that the demandant is a direct descendant of we the people and is entitled to right of blood. And they're required to know that we the people failed to be U.S. citizens because U.S. citizens failed to exist when the Constitution was written. And they're required to know it's impossible for the District of Columbia court-worth military pigs to be superior to the demandant because they all exist under government authority and are other property of the United States because they're subject to the Code of Federal Regulations. And Janet Yellen's required to know that it's impossible for the demandant to delegate an authority over the demandant. And this is McCullough versus Maryland, U.S. Supreme Court. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation, but those over which it does not extend are, upon the soundest principles, exempt from taxation. This proposition may almost be pronounced as self-evident. The sovereignty of the state extends to everything which exists by its own authority, is introduced by its permission, but does it extend to those means which are employed by Congress to carry into execution powers conferred on that body by the people of the United States? We think it demonstrable that it does not. Those powers are not given by the people of a single state. They are given by the people of the United States to a government whose laws made in pursuance of the Constitution are declared to be supreme. Consequently, the people of a single state cannot confer a sovereignty which will extend over them. And Janet Yellen's required to know that a direct descendant of we the people, that as a direct descendant of we the people, the Constitution of the United States was written under authority of the demandant, as evidenced by the statement of original status and associated pedigree charts contained and attached to the original claim for relief, all of which is incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. And it's impossible for the demandant to be a citizen of the United States because the demandant is white as evidenced by the Lake Worth Military Police report attached to the original war crimes complaint. And the so-called 14th Amendment requires only persons born or naturalized in the United States. And all of which is evidence that Janet Yellen's intent to perjure her oath that she failed to take, and all civil laws, Arizona, Texas, Department, District of Columbia, statutes, codes, rules, and regulations cannot be used to violate the demandant's rights. And McCraw, Mayorkas, Janet Yellen, and Tooley failed to be happy engaging in war crimes against the demandant because they and their Homeland Security buddies spread the word under their Five Eyes Alliance so their communist buddies in Canada can help out with the war crimes, as evidenced by the Canada Border Services agents lookout synopsis attached, where on page 1 the heading says cautioned, armed and dangerous, and under details they're outraged to think that someone has the right to resist an unlawful arrest with lethal force if necessary. And on or about the year 2014, Janet Yellen and Tooley and and McCraw's military police buddies in the Canada Border Services Agency, PIGS, arrested the demandant based on his lookout synopsis, held the demandant in their torture chamber jail for over 24 hours. That was about 40 degrees Fahrenheit with nothing but a short-sleeved shirt, and charged him with fraudulent, fictitious charges against their Roman cult Sesticate Trust, and put on a show trial and held the demandant in slavery for 82 days. And their buddy Sidney Biggs, under instructions for Peter Kujawinski, Consul General, Richard Hanrahan, Consul General, and John Andrews, Consul General, Consulate General of the United States, Calgary, Canada, intended to be accomplices to the war crimes by notifying the Calgary Military Police and then taking a nice long lunch break so the Calgary Military Police would have plenty of time to get there and execute their fake color of law warrant and be waiting for the demandant when the demandant went downstairs to make sure the demandant got sold into slavery, because the Calgary Military Police told the demandant they'd been notified by the U.S. Consulate, which is why they need to get rid of their nasty little common law problem by imposing martial law, because at common law, they all get their necks stretched. And then the Homeland Security pigs use that as justification to revoke the demandant's airframe and power plant license in an effort to deny the demandant his right to pursue happiness, and the demandant's student pilot certificate, and the demandant has failed to get a compensation for labor contract since 2012, except for a 6-week period in 2015 when the demandant had a contract with GKN Aerospace in Montgomery, Alabama, and when they laid the demandant off, they went to great trouble to tell the demandant it had nothing to do with his work performance, but their corporate office in the United Kingdom had ordered it, one of Janet Yellen's Five Eyes Alliance buddies. And Yellen's Internal Revenue Service thieves assaulted the demandant with their minor estate to force the demandant to leave the longest position he's had in his life at U.S. Airways with their thefts, as evidenced by the letter they sent their thieving U.S. Airways buddies and their bought and paid for clerk masquerading as Judge Neil V. Wake in the Arizona District in this case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court as case 07-5674. And the U.S. Department of so-called Justice waived their right to respond, thereby admitting they're thieves, all of which is part of their agenda to engage in war crimes against anyone who thinks they have any rights, because they intend to enslave anyone who thinks they have rights, and their bar member whores selling their Just Us, like a Richmond, Alito, Lynn, Godme, Ramirez, and Scholler, are their accomplices by using their color of law rules to make sure that justice is denied as part of their slavery agenda, because it makes such good business for their so-called court, so they can sell their Just Us with their extortion racket filing fee and get their errors and omissions insurance paid for, thereby converting a court case into a commercial transaction and nullifying their oath of office at the same time, and thereby justifying sitting there and playing stupid. And the bought and paid for clerks masquerading as...
That's an interesting deal, right? So when you pay for it, they put it in a commercial capacity or commerce. Okay? Because we have a right to access the court to get remedy without being paying them, because it's a right to men and women. Now McDonald's, if they have McDonald's and Walmart have issues, then they must file. It's a privilege for them, but it's a right to men and women of the people. That's a right to access courts, which cannot be filed fees.
Judges Richmond, Alito, Godby, Ramirez, and Scholler are converting the demandant's right into a remedy, into a privilege by using their
P.S. It's in some of y'all's state constitution. I can't find it in Texas, but in some of y'all's constitution, it tells you guys that. Can't be feed.
constitutional rules to sell their just us. And here's some court cases about converting a right into a privilege. And they intend to make sure the demandant has no access to his grandsons and granddaughters, all of which is in support of their reprisals agenda against anyone whose political beliefs fail to agree with theirs, and their reprisals against anyone who thinks they have rights, and their demonstrated intent to create fraudulent fictitious charges so they can steal some of the fake money out of the SSK trust account with the Treasury. And if the demandant turns up dead, they get all the fake money as part of their unjust enrichment theft scams. So either way, it's a win-win-win scenario for Godby, Tooley, Mayorkas, McCraw, and their pigs as part of their genocide agenda against state nationals by prohibiting the demandant from educating his grandsons and granddaughters about who they really are. State nationals, not their U.S. citizens, scum! All of which is evidence in the demandant's, and the demandant has never in his life breached the peace. And Tien, Freeman, Mayorkas, Tooley, Yellen, McCraw, and Prince and their pigs engaged in breach the peace on a routine basis. And they all know it's impossible for the demandant to delegate an authority over the demandant, because the demandant is we the people, which means the demandant is the government, which means they're engaged in a seditious conspiracy in violation of their code of law for the District of Columbia, Section 2384. And they're giving aid and comfort to the enemy in a time of war, which is treason. In their code of law for the District of Columbia, 2381, treason. And it's open rebellion and insurrection against we the people in violation of their code of law for the District of Columbia, 2383. You fucking pigs! Which is why they have to use their minor estate and commerce clause, all of which is in support of George Soros and his Open World Foundation and the Communist Party of China and their communist agenda to overthrow we the people as part of their seditious conspiracy and kill off 90% of we the people and pillage the fake money from millions of Roman cult minor estate treasury direct accounts under 31 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 363.6, and enslave everybody remaining, all of which is evidenced in, and I list the evidence that I attached to the original complaint. 2 copies of which are attached hereto and or filed into this case as part of the war crimes complaint, all of which are incorporated herein by reference in their entirety, all of which is evidence that they intend to engage in their forced Federal Reserve note bribery extortion racket to facilitate their agenda to create terrorists, pillage the fake money from the Roman cult Sesticate Trust minor estate treasury direct account with the Treasury. They intend to bring District of Columbia statutes, codes, rules into the land of Texas in violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. You fucking pigs! And the Constitution to facilitate their agenda to create terrorists and pillage the fake money from the minor estate. They intend to suborn perjury by the screen their low intelligence military police hired pigs for low intelligence and a propensity for aggressive behavior, giving them a gun and telling them to do things they fail to be authorized to do, to facilitate their agenda to create terrorists and pillage the fake money from the Roman cult Trust Sesticate Trust minor estate treasury direct account. You fucking pigs! They intend to force the demandant to give evidence against himself in violation of Article 5 an amendment and as a war crime in violation of Article 31 of the Geneva Convention to the protection of civilians in a time of war of 1949 to facilitate their agenda to create terrorists. You fucking pigs! and pillage the fake money from the Roman called Sestake Trust Minor Estate Treasury direct account. You fucking pigs! They intend to engage in illegal and unlawful searches and seizures in violation of Article 4 of the Amendment, and as a war crime in violation of Article 31 of the Geneva Convention relative to the protection of civilians in a time of war of 1949 to facilitate the pillage of the fake money in their Roman called Sestake Trust Minor Estate Treasury direct account under 31 CFR 363.6.
You don't think the guy's passionate? Alrighty. So I'm going to go with a definition of the F word. To strike or to move back and forth. He's striking these people with words. And he's not using it as a alleged cuss word. Disclaimer. Till next time, y'all. This will be the People News. Bye.